Hello everyone, this is Betsy from Ideas Times 2, and I hope you are well. It is a beautiful fall day here in Cincinnati, and it just makes me happy. I love fall. It's such a break from the very, very hot and humid summers we have here in Cincinnati. So anyway, what I have for you today, I have sort of a craft with me. It's what I kind of call what's on my desk. So I usually have a little pile of things that I have found interesting that, oh, I can make something with that. Leftover something that I don't want to throw away that has possibilities. So that's kind of what I have here. So I'm just going to show you just very quickly a few of the things that I looked through and what I decided to go ahead and start, make a little project. And I thought I'd bring you along with me so you could see the thought process and maybe give you some ideas on what you could use. So I have got, a mixture of things. This is left over from a home decor piece I had made. This has probably been a year and a half ago. Yeah, that's about right, I think, a year and a half. So it's an image from Gecko Gals, and I had glued it onto chipboard, and then I covered it with glossy accents. I inked the edges, covered it with glossy accents, so you can see if I can get the light. There we go. So it's all shiny. I thought this would be an amazing, I could use this on a collage, and that's an idea, or I thought I could try to use it for a cover of a journal. So we will, like a mini, right? So I'm going to put that aside for now, but we're going to pick something out of this pile. Here's a tag that I made for a Tracy Fox challenge, and last year I had made a Christmas album using a tag. So it's not a tag album as in it's a tag and then you flip it and there's another tag, you flip it and there's another tag. They're usually done on rings, a ring bound. This would be like using this as the cover and then have pages on the inside in a separate binding. So anyway, I had a tag journal like that last year, and I really enjoyed that. So I love this. I just haven't found the perfect journal to put it in, and so I thought, well, hey, why don't I make it a cover? So it's been sitting here for a little while. I found this at antique mall, and I love this vintage crayon box, and I thought that would be such a cute cover. So here's a gift set that I received, a Burt's Bees gift set that had lotions, and it has this, cute little window, and it's a box. I've already cut some of it apart, so that might be something. In fact, that is what I chose. I have a frame that's been collaged with Tim Holtz paper, so I had done this for a project, then decided not to use it. I love these little mini cereal boxes. I think this would be an adorable journal. I have some leftover wallpaper that I had an ink method that I used and made a cover with it already, and I thought that would be another cute sort of mini journal or a tag. So I have that set aside. I embroidered this piece here and wasn't sure I wanted to make it into an ornament, so I thought, well, it'd be a cute cover on a journal. I think that would be adorable, so I set that aside. This is just something, so we were at Chick-fil-A, and I thought the bag was a nice size, and it wasn't ruined or anything like that. It was like in pristine condition, and so I was coffee dyeing stuff, so I just stuck this in the coffee dye, and I thought that would be a cute journal cover as well. So, but what I did choose is this. So we're going to work with that. I'm going to set all this stuff aside, and you can look for more What's on My Desk videos, because I would really like to use these things up. I don't like to have things laying around. So this is what I chose. Now that all that stuff is removed, I see I have a light. So I'm going to see if I can move that so it's not going to be in our way. Okay, now that is casting a little bit of a shadow. So let me move that. All right. That's the thing about the Tim Holtz glass mat I love the glass mat. I would not change it for anything, but you do have to be careful about the lights and how they're going to be glaring on video. Anyway, so this is what I chose. This, and you can use this method with any box that you find that has a little window. You'll just have to adjust your measurements. So this measures 5 3/4. And what I noticed is the front, this flap is already pre-scored. So I'm not sure how the box went. I think it must have had like a decorative tab up here, because the spine fold is an angle like that. And this is higher, or this is lower, I mean, than the back. The back is higher. So you can see that. So what I need to do is either reinforce this so it doesn't bend right there, or just cut this completely straight across and make it that size, which is what I think I will do. So what I'm going to do, because you can probably see the jagged edge that's here from cutting off it had little tabs that tucked into themselves. Well, it tucked into the, the box part here, tucked over into the next side. And so these were tabs that I cut off, and the bottom. I already cut off this side here. This I didn't cut. And this wasn't cut either, so I'm not sure what that looked like originally, but... So what am I going to do? I am going to cut straight across where this score line is already. I'm going to cut from there and just go straight across. I'm going to make sure these edges are all nice and straight. So I'm going to do that on my paper trimmer, and I will be back in just a minute. All right, I am back. All the extraneous little tabs and flaps are gone, and we have a nice book shape. So this is going to be a very, very fun book cover, I think. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is if you choose, if you're going to make one of these two using packaging, the thing to decide is if, like how flimsy is it? Is it okay for a cover? Do you need to reinforce it? And so I've determined I need to reinforce it. It is pretty strong. It's not bad, but I want to reinforce it just with some heavy cardstock. It doesn't have to be super hard chipboard or anything like that, but this is craft cardstock. It is very sturdy. I don't know. It feels like it's about 110-pound paper, and I think that'll be the perfect sort of layer on the inside of the cover to give it some sturdiness. All right, so before I put this on, I am going to remove the window. So obviously it's going to be a little tricky right here. Here is fine, it's just a rectangle, but this will be a little tricky. But we do need to remove the window, and remove it carefully so that you can reuse it. If you wreck it, not to worry, you can still use a piece of acetate or some other packaging. For example, now this is going to be a little too heavy, but I just threw away this box. It's all scratched up, and it was, I'll be recycling it, but just packaging, some other packaging you may have, and it might have some wonderful acetate on it, just use that. Or you can buy sheets of acetate. So I'm just going to try to carefully remove this, which shouldn't be too hard. It does look like it is. I'm going to get my bone folder here. It does look like it's ripping the cardstock a little bit, or the packaging. So I just want to make sure it's not ripping much, that it's just ripping as little as possible. Trying to keep the edges and integrity of the edges especially. So I'm just going to remove this as carefully as possible. Having more success, I think, just pulling it, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull that. there we go. So nice sheet of acetate, not scratched up, and we'll be able to reuse that. So if you have any little places that are hanging over your window, we want to remove those. That's what that looks like. Now what I can do is reinforce my inside with this cardstock. So I'm going to do it in three pieces. I'm going to cut a rectangle for here, and cut a long rectangle for the spine, and then cut a rectangle here, and then we will trim that out with a craft knife. Alright, so and I'm not going to measure. What I'm going to do is just put glue real close to the outside edge. We don't want the glue to ooze or anything, but make sure you get near the edge and glue that all over the place. And then we're going to line up, make sure that it's probably about 1/8 of an inch away from that fold on what we're going to be calling the spine, because it's going to be our book spine. Okay, and then just flatten this out. Just flatten it down. You could even take your bone folder and flatten it. Nice. Okay, and then I'm going to make sure I'm in frame, and then I'm going to just trim it on the edges. Our edges are nice and straight because we've already cut them that way. So we're going to just trim. I got a little uneven right there. All right, so we might need a measure on this one, but I'm going to go ahead and do this side again here. So what we're going to do, just glue make sure you glue the window edges along the outside edge. So I'm just going to reinforce this with this nice cardstock, and that'll give us a nice sturdy cover. Keeping in mind too that I'm going to cover I'm going to cover the outside edge of this with something, and that will sturdy up the cover too. And I'm also going to probably line this. I think I will line it because in my head I'm thinking I might cover this with fabric. So once you cover it with fabric, you're going to get the fabric edges coming up to the inside. So you're going to want to line that anyway. So that will also help sturdy up the cover. So keeping all those things in mind, but I still really felt like it needed one more layer of sturdy paper. So, all right, now I'm trimming. Just trim along the outside edge. There we go. A little uneven right there. All right. And it's feeling very good. I really like that. All right, now I didn't bring my craft knife over here, so I'm having to grab that, which I will do. And also bring over my mat for cutting, because I've learned if you have, especially if you have like a titanium blade, you cannot do that on your glass craft mat. Yes, I did learn that the hard way. I have a couple divots and a scratch on my mat, and so that's, of course, not great. Not great at all. So this is about 1¼ inch by 4½ and we may need to trim part of that off, which is totally fine. So let's see. All right, I think I'm just going to go ahead and do this on my mat using my mat lines. So I'm going to line this up on the edge and line it up with a straight edge on both sides, and then I'm going to count 4½. Place my ruler at 4½ at the top of the craft mat and at the bottom of the craft mat. So now I've got 4½ inches, and just, whoops, my ruler moved, so let me make sure I'm lined up. So we're just trimming that, and then it's, what did I say? 1¼ inch. Yep, 1¼ inch. So, and I think it was just a tad, like 1/16 of an inch past 1¼ inch. Sorry, my ruler moved again. There we go. And that should be wonderful. My spine piece it's got a little bit of a uneven edge, but it's not going to matter. It's for reinforcement only. It's not going to show. So I'm going to glue that right in there. And since this is smaller than this, I'm going to put the glue on here. All right. There we have a reinforced cover, which I think is amazing. I'm already like a step ahead of, I mean, it's way better than, I'm way farther now than when I had it just laying on my desk forever, right? So I might use a straight edge for these straight parts, and hopefully my head is not getting in the frame here. So what I think I'm going to do is use my straight edge to get the straight lines, being careful not to carve into those corners, because I'll do that by hand. So a metal ruler or a hard plastic ruler, metal ruler would actually be better. So why don't I just grab that, because that is a much better idea. Because otherwise you're going to nick your plastic ruler, and I know better than that, because I've done that before. So careful to come up to the corners, and then this will have to be done. So yep, this part will have to be done by hand because it's got a curved top. So I think that'll be fun. Just makes it a little harder to cut. All right, a little bit more. Good. Okay, now we're going to get this nice rounded edge here. And I don't know, when I was cutting the flap off, I thought, I didn't know what theme I was going to have for this journal, but I thought, wouldn't it be fun to make a bee journal to sort of give a nod to the type of box it is? I just thought that would be kind of fun. So I think I'm going to make a little bee journal out of this. All right, and there we have our window cut out. This would actually be a cute little journaling card. I see that I need to trim just a tiny bit more up here. So I am sorry to bore you, but I want to make sure that it looks nice and neat once we get our finished like finishing method down. So I'm probably going to wrap it with fabric, as I mentioned. So I do have that in mind. So we will see. All right. There we go. I'm super excited about that. All right. You may, if you have something, you may not need to reinforce it, but that is what I felt like I should do there. All right. So now the next step would be to decide on what to put on the outside of this. And like I said, I was thinking about fabric. And I think I will still use fabric. I mean, I do have this cute paper, which has bees and hives on it. That is really cute. And I was thinking about that. I could use this on the inside though. And I did cut, because this is small-ish, right? And so you don't want a fabric that has real busy pattern, especially because this front is going to be taken up by an image of some kind. So I chose this, which is like a honeycomb. So before I came back on camera, I was thinking about the whole bee thing, and I thought this would be cute. So I did cut this. And I think I'm going to do that. And then I'll show you how to do that. If you're interested in wrapping a window with fabric, then this will be perfect. I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to go back to my glass mat. All right. All right, so the way to do this is really pretty easy. First of all, I don't like to have super sharp edges, or corners, I mean, so I'm just going to just slightly trim these. The reason why I do that is because either if you're wrapping this with paper, or even just using a journal with real sharp edges, those edges are going to sort of wear down or start peeling the layers or whatever. So I usually like to sort of give it a rounded edge. You know, not super rounded, just get that real sharp corner off. So that's usually what I do. You definitely don't have to. All right, so the way I'm going to do this is, I'm thinking, guys, thinking. So I don't like the fabric to be loose. And I think if I just wrap it, on the front it might not be a big deal, but I think on the back, the edges will be tight and the fabric will be loose. So I'm just thinking ahead. Oh, also, I should mention, if you have a fabric that shows that is thinner and this is heavy contrast here, and all of a sudden you've got a problem, you could either paint this white, or you could put your reinforcing cardstock in just a white, or that craft, and just put it right over here and do it that way instead of putting it on the inside. That will reinforce the cover, and at the same time it will cover over your design. So I picked this fabric, but I didn't audition it to see, but I do not think that cover shows through. So but what I'm thinking about right now is the looseness, but it's a small journal, so because normally what I would do, I would take a glue sheet and put it on here. But for now, it's small. I think I might just go ahead and put this on. So you're just watching me debate with myself, because this is what it is. I'm just figuring it out. Figuring out how I can use what's on my desk. So I'm putting glue on the edges now, and these honeycombs do have a line. They're not random on here. There is a line. So I'm going to try to make sure I'm all lined up. And this fabric is cut very generally, so I'm sure I might be trimming little pieces off here and there. I do like to trim this quite a bit. Leave about 1/8 of an inch at your corner right here. Also, what I'll do is pull this over so it's nice and tight. And then I'll usually get like a tiny bit of glue. Make sure there's a little tiny glue here. And then push that down on this top edge. So I'm pushing it down on the top edge like that. And now this is dried a little bit, so I need to reapply my glue. I usually try to make it nice and even so that it all lays flat. Okay, so your little corner that we pushed down, this fabric is going to wrap right around that. And there are other ways to make corners too. Maybe you have a favorite way of doing it, but that's the way I do it. Sorry about that. And so I'm just going to go ahead and continue to wrap this. Picking up where I left off. You can't put the glue around the whole thing because it does dry pretty quickly. So, but I should mention the glue. I really enjoy using Fabri-Tac or Fabri-Fix. This just happens to be Fabri-Fix, and I love these glues. They don't warp paper. So if you're trying to glue something on your chipboard or your cardstock, it's going to wrinkle with a lot of different types of glues. So this is my favorite, and if you get a nice thin layer, it shouldn't be too much of a problem as far as bleed through. But even if it is, we're going to cover this with cardstock lining anyway, so we should be good. So when you come to the spine, make sure you take a bone folder or a straight edge of some kind and really get into those creases. Make sure you get into those creases so it doesn't make it too stiff for your cover. All right, and then once again, I'm trying to make sure my pattern is not going askew. It is a little bit, but it is so busy I don't think it's going to matter. So I'm just going to continue on here. Oops, I'm actually pulling this the wrong way. You don't want to really warp your fabric either, so I think I'm just going to stick with that. Yeah, I'll stick with it. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I think it doesn't matter. So we're just going to go with it. We're just going to go with it. Okay, so now I did glue this down, but I need to trim this off till about 1/8 of an inch from the corner. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to fold this up. And right now I've got some hanging over my window, but that's of course no big deal because I can trim that off. But so to get you a little closer here, I just glued it straight across, and then what I'm talking about is making sure this is pushed up against that next edge that you're going to start so that it folds over the top of it. So before this dries, I'm just going to go ahead, because I do not, if I need to readjust it, I don't want that fabric to, or that glue to be dry yet, but even if it is, it's probably no big deal. Okay, got a nice crisp corner there. All right, trim. I'm going to trim this other one. And don't worry about the inside of the frame yet. You may think, oh, we need to glue that, but we don't need to yet. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Another thing you could do is use batting on this. That would have been cute. You could put batting in between the fabric and the chipboard. Okay, so here's that spot where I just go straight across, and you've got a little overhang. Just make sure it's tucked in, and then bring your fabric over the top, making sure it's nice and tight. All right, and we're just going to continue down the line. And then we're almost up to our, I'm just smoothing out the glue. Make sure that's nice and tight. And then crease your scored your spine on either side of your spine, those scored lines. Make sure that those are pushed down with your bone folder. It's gonna be cute. All right, so we're on our very last corner, which I've already clipped. And we're gonna get this done. All right. Fold that up, and then get in with your bone folder on the edge that's coming up next after you get this one done. And fold over. And this, I didn't trim very well, so I'm going to just go ahead and trim that. I still have a tiny tag there. I am going to trim that up. All right, so there we have it. All right, now, how do we do the window? Let's here. I'm trying to decide what to do first. I'm going to trim my fabric just a little bit, because it's hanging over the inside part. Okay, there. See, now you can see that cardstock that we laid down. You don't have to put fabric. You can collage your cover. You can just cover it with a nice paper. I sort of like my edges wrapped around, so I would, even if I used paper, I think I would wrap the edges with the paper. Okay, now to do the window. So what we're going to do is just, with a sharp scissors, just go ahead and cut out the inside part, leaving about a 1/2 inch or so, or 3/8 of an inch, so that we can wrap. And if you had all straight edges, this would be super easy, but we have rounded edges. So what I did, my camera switched off, so now that I'm back, what I did while I was gone for that second, I went ahead and clipped my corners. See how you just clip the fabric right up to the cardstock, leaving about a 1/16 of an inch. There's another picture there. And then along the top on this particular one, I just clipped it a little bit because it is a curved edge up there too. So all my corners are clipped. I may need to clip some more as I go, but we will see. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and put some, working a few inches at a time, because this glue does dry fast, but working a few inches at a time, I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping this fabric around the back side of our cover here. There we go. And then your little fabric pieces will sort of splay out, and that's okay. That is okay. That is relieving the tension of having that straight edge go around the round edge. So that is actually a good sign. So we're just going to go ahead and start wrapping all the way around. And if you need to clip some more curves, if you have a rounded area in yours as well, if you need to clip some more, just clip as you go. Like that one, I don't think I clipped close enough to the edge of the cardstock, so I'm just gonna, and then do another clip too, I think. It just relieves the tension of having to go over a curve. If you're a sewer, you know all about that. All right, let's go. And it should fall into place pretty easily. I think this glue is dry right here, so let me peel that back and re-glue that. Another thing this glue is good for is gluing fabric to fabric. So not only is it good for paper, but it's also good for fabric. As the name would suggest, it's called Fabrifix. There we go. So let me show you. There we go. See? Nice edge. So at this point, you're going to want to put your acetate back on. And we have a little bit of a white edge. I'm trying to see if that's going to show. It shouldn't show. But you can certainly peel some of this paper back away. That way you can just be sure that that white edge is not going to show. So I'm just peeling some of this off. A little bit more over here. There we go. So I'm thinking though, before I do that, before I glue that on, I need to have my lining marked so that I know where to clip there. So where was that paper? Alright, so I may wind up inking this, I'm not sure, but for now I'm just going to go ahead and let's see, so it'll be like this. So that the bees will be on the inside. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to line this up with my cover creases and my spine crease and the top edge. I'm going to line it up, and then I am going to, I would normally do this in pencil, but my mechanical pencil is out of, anyway, I'm tracing this, trying not to get ink on the fabric, obviously, but I'm tracing that so that when I cut, I might as well just go around the edge too. So when I cut this paper, the window will fit in there perfectly. All right. Now, as long as I just went by the, as long as I did it that way for this, I think I might do it for the other side too. So what I'll do is just cut a little inside my I'll cut a little bit inside my my drawn edge, and that way the ink won't show. Of course, it's on the back of the fabric anyway, but it also makes it a little smaller so that it will fit on there. So just cutting now, and I can certainly use my paper trimmer too, but I've got these nice long scissors. I think it'll be fine. Alright, so let's see how that fits. Still pretty big. So I'll use my paper trimmer and make sure those lines are nice and straight. Where's my paper trimmer? My paper trimmer disappeared. Anyway, so I'm going to trim that up a little bit. I'll set that aside for a minute. And now I'm going to cut this one. We're going to see how that window fits in there. I'll glue that on, and that'll be my cover. My cover should be complete. Alright, so I'm just going to take a smaller scissors, and I'm going to cut, let's see, I'm going to want to cut on the outside of the line to make sure that it doesn't butt up to the edge of that very much, otherwise it's going to show through the window. But we want it to look nice and neat. I will need to make a pocket or some kind of design for inside the window, and so you're crafting with me, so I'm deciding as I go. So that lines it, makes it more sturdy, but it also will cover up our messy fabric bits there. So I'm going to see if this shows through the window. It's not too bad. I think I need to trim it up just a tiny bit. Alright, so I'm going to trim these pieces and make a spine piece, and I'll be back in just a second. My thought was to try to figure out how to put a pocket so that this image could slip in and out, or the image could be changed. And I've decided against that because there isn't much room on the side of this frame to give it the room enough to slip in and out easily, and it's not very sturdy for that, and so I decided against that. So I will tell you what I came up with, but first I decided what would be cool is to go ahead and sew around the edge of this. So I'm going to sew around the outside edge, and then I'm going to sew around the window as well, and I will be back. Hello, I am back. So I sewed around the edges of the journal cover and also the window area. And I was waffling on that window, did some thinking while I was away from you, and I decided, at first I was going to put the acetate back in, put an image behind it as a sort of a permanent picture on the cover, and then just line this as normal. I also toyed with the idea of putting a bee in the center, a floating bee, so then leaving it sort of open. But since there isn't much area here to work with, I decided against that idea, although I really like that idea. So the next thing I thought of was I made a frame. I'm going to put the acetate in here like that, and I cut out after tracing this. You guys saw me do that. I made a frame. So I am just going to put this frame to solidify the cover a little bit and to cover up all of our, you know, gluing and stuff. So I made that like that. So this will be an actual window cover, just like it was originally, a window box. And then when I put the signatures in, the page that will be showing through here will be probably a collaged page, and then all the yummy stuff will show through the window. So that's what I decided to do. So all we need to do really now is to glue these things, and then this journal cover will be ready for the signatures and ready to finish. So we're going to glue that. And I think I'll put a piece of fabric down here to strengthen the spine for those signatures. So let's get those in. So the acetate will go, and I'm just going to go ahead and use the glue line they used on the box, which has the paper sticking to it. It's probably a good way to do it. Help the glue to stick a little better as well. Okay, so we're going to get that on and carefully glue that down, making sure there aren't any white paper areas sticking out through the cover. Nope. I think maybe I'll do better like this, because the acetate was poking out to the top of the journal cover right up here, and I would have had to trim it. So I think if I just flip it over like this, that'll be the correct way to put it on. And I'm going to move it up just slightly. All right. Now we've got, it has a few glue strings, which I'll get off in a second, but the other thing I was thinking about doing before I put the acetate down, before I put the acetate down, I was thinking what I'm going to do is actually ink the edges of the window and the edges of the journal. I think that'll just make this window pop and bring some definition. So I'm going to have to re-glue. So I apologize for that, but just winging it here. Just thinking, sort of thinking as I go. All right, so I think maybe hard to see from the video, but I think it made a difference. I like that a lot. So, and then I'm going to do the outside edge as well. And probably the spine area as well. See that ink on there? And the other side of the spine crease. So there it is, inked up a little bit. And I am glad I caught that, because I think that made a big difference. Now I have to figure out which side is which again. One more time, we're going to glue this. And just get that on there. There we go. All right, and then we've got our window. And as I mentioned, it does have a few glue strings, but I'll get those off. I'll get those off later. So the next thing is to glue this frame. So I glued the frame onto some more craft cardstock just to make it sturdier. And that way we'll have a 100% see-through window. Put another frame around it to strengthen that cover. This will be a little different, just to have a plain window, and then the star of the show will be the front signature. So hopefully that will be a good, fun way to do it, a little different. Alright, so now that's done. Let's get this glued on. And I did wind up inking these, you probably noticed, because it was stark white before. And decided to just, so for when I want to ink the whole page, I just use a soft makeup brush, and gives the paper some aging. And then I inked around the edges as well for definition. Alright, just kind of smooth everything down. And let's see if I had a piece of fabric. So I'm going to cut a piece of fabric about 4 inches by about, it's not going to overlap a lot because we've got the window there, but maybe a 1/4 of an inch here, 3/8, 1/4 of an inch, and the same over there. And then I'm going to glue that right down on the spine to strengthen the spine. I'll be back with the fabric. Alright, so I looked through my scraps. I found this little gingham, and I think I'll use that for the spine to reinforce that. So I'm going to go ahead and use Fabrifix again, and I'm just going to spread it on here in a very thin layer and then attach the fabric. I was trying to find a black or something kind of contrasting, so I kind of came up with this fabric. I had a couple of different bee fabrics, but they blended a little bit too much with the lining fabric that we put on there. Alright, so just spread that out. And then we're going to place that just on top. Try to center it a little bit. And get a bone folder and make sure to crease, push that down right into the crease, and that way you'll not hamper the bending of the spine. Everything will still be movable. All right. Got some little, well, it's gingham, so there's some little stray threads there, which I like, so I usually fray the edges on purpose. And there we have it. So might trim that down just a hair. I like it when it sticks up over the edge a little bit, but it's sticking up a little farther than the bottom one, so just fray that edge a little bit. There we go. So we have our Burt's Bees box turned into a journal cover. So the next video, I'll show you what I put together for the pages, and then we'll sew it directly onto the spine, and then we'll have a finished project. Super excited about that. I'll try to get to the next video tomorrow, and I guess that's it for today. Thank you for joining me on what's on my desk. We'll try to get to some of our other projects soon as well. So we love our subbies. Thank you so much for subscribing to our YouTube channel. We also can be found on a Facebook group at ideastimestwo, and I'll put the links for our Facebook group down below, and our Instagram as well. And please be sure to visit our Etsy shop if you have a chance. Take care, everybody, and we will talk to you soon. Goodbye.